The champagne was flowing, laughter echoing, and fairy lights glowing around the garden. Friends and family had gathered to celebrate our future, the one I thought we both wanted. But deep down, I already knew something was off. The late-night texts, the sudden meetings, the hesitation in his eyes when I mentioned the honeymoon, it all added up. So when he clinked his glass and stood up to make an announcement, I didn't flinch. I just smiled, reached for my clutch, and pulled out something that turned every guest's smile into stunned silence. I met Nathan 3 years ago at a corporate networking event. He was magnetic, tall, charming, effortlessly confident, the kind of man who could command a room without raising his voice. At the time, I was freshly promoted, still finding my footing in the world of business strategy, and utterly taken aback when he asked me out over wine and small talk. Our relationship moved fast. Within months, he had met my parents. By the end of the first year, we were living together. The proposal came on a snowy December evening in front of the Rockefeller Christmas tree. People clapped, strangers snapped photos. I cried. It was picture perfect. On the outside, we looked like a fairy tale. Inside, things had already started to fracture. Nathan was ambitious, sometimes too ambitious. He worked late often, constantly talking about the next level or getting ahead of the pack. I supported him, of course. I understood drive. I had my own goals, too. But his late nights started stretching into full weekends. Client dinners, he said. Strategy meetings, he claimed. But there were no receipts, no photos, and when I asked too many questions, he'd get defensive. I wanted to believe him. I did. Until I didn't. 3 months before our engagement party, I noticed the little things. He started guarding his phone, flipping it face down, turning off notifications. He suddenly had a new assistant named Maya he'd never mentioned before. Once, I spotted her name on his caller ID late at night. When I asked about it, he laughed it off. She's just respect work-life boundaries yet. Still, something didn't sit right. So I followed my gut. I didn't snoop through his phone, though I was tempted. Instead, I paid attention. I noted the names he mentioned, his frequent absences, his excuses. I quietly reached out to someone I knew at his firm. It turned out Maya wasn't just an assistant. She was in marketing, and there had been whispers about her and Nathan taking coffee meetings that didn't happen in the office. I didn't want to believe it. But then came the confirmation I hadn't even asked for. A mutual acquaintance sent me a video, recorded at a bar downtown. It showed Nathan with his arm around Maya, whispering in her ear, her head leaning on his shoulder. It wasn't damning, not legally. But emotionally? It tore through me. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I planned. If he wanted out, I would let him have it, but on my terms. I didn't confront him. I let the engagement party move forward. I let him smile for photos, play the doting fiancé, shake hands with my uncle, charm my mother. I let everyone believe we were happy. And I prepared what I needed behind the scenes. 2 weeks before the party, I met with a lawyer. Not because I was married, but because I wanted to know exactly what my rights were. Nathan and I had merged some assets, started looking at properties together. I wanted everything clean. I also drafted a letter, not just to Nathan, but to Maya, and to his company's HR department, outlining what I'd observed, attached with screenshots and a transcript from the video. And then I waited. The day of the engagement party was beautiful. My best friend Jenna helped me into a pale blue silk dress that caught the light with every step. I wore my grandmother's bracelet and a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Nathan was in high spirits. He greeted everyone like he was hosting the Oscars. Maya wasn't there, obviously, but I noticed how often he checked his phone, like he was waiting for something, someone. Maybe she had cold feet about letting him do what he was planning. Or maybe she was the one pushing it. Midway through the party, as the music softened and the cake was being brought out, Nathan clinked his glass and stood. "Everyone," he said, voice smooth, practiced. "I just want to say thank you for coming. Your support means the world to both of us. But I also have something difficult to share." People quieted. You could hear the breeze brushing through the backyard hedges. Nathan cleared his throat, then glanced at me with something like guilt or pity. "After much reflection, I've realized that I'm not ready. This isn't where I should be. I'm calling off the engagement." Gasps. Whispers. A few people looked straight at me, unsure what kind of meltdown to expect. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I calmly stepped forward, reached into my clutch, and pulled out a sealed white envelope. I smiled. "Thank you for being honest, Nathan. Here's something for you too." I placed the envelope on the table in front of him. His brows furrowed. He looked confused. I turned to the crowd. "I hope you all enjoy the evening. It's still a celebration, just not the one you expected." Then I walked away. And behind me, I heard the silence break as someone, maybe Jenna, whispered, "Open it." What followed would change everything. The silence in the backyard was palpable as I walked away, my heels clicking softly on the stone tiles. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew the moment Nathan opened the envelope, I could feel the shift in energy behind me, the sudden hush followed by a ripple of uneasy whispers. Inside the envelope was everything. A copy of the video that showed him with Maya at the bar, a printout of text messages he thought he had deleted but which I had retrieved through synced backups, little flirtations, "When will she leave for work" messages, and even "I can't wait to be free of this fake engagement" line he sent just 3 weeks before the party. There was also a letter I had written, outlining everything I'd observed for months, calmly and clearly. No accusations, just truth, well-documented, time-stamped truth. The final page was addressed to HR at his firm. I hadn't sent it yet, but I made sure he knew I would if I didn't get the respect I deserved walking away from this. I stepped inside the house and closed the sliding door gently behind me. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I poured myself a glass of champagne and sat on the couch as the chaos unfolded outside. 5 minutes later, Jenna came in. "You okay?" she asked, her voice a mix of awe and concern. "I'm perfect," I said with a tired smile. "You should see his face," she added. He turned gray. "People are freaking out." "Good. Let them." For once, I wasn't the one left cleaning up after someone else's mess. The fallout happened in real time. Some guests left quietly, too polite or too shocked to comment. Others confronted Nathan, asking him what the hell he'd been thinking. My mother came in, sat next to me, and held my hand. "I had a feeling," she whispered. "But I didn't want to believe it." "I didn't either," I replied. "But I needed to know." Nathan eventually came inside, pale and shaking, envelope still in hand. "Can we talk?" he said, like this was something that could be solved with words. I stood, not to argue, not to fight, just to end it. "There's nothing left to say, Nathan. You made your decision. I just made mine louder." He opened his mouth again, probably to launch into some kind of half-baked excuse, but I held up a hand. "I was never going to embarrass you, Nathan. You chose to do this here, today. I simply matched your energy." He looked down at the envelope, then at me. "You are going to send this to HR?" "I still might," I said. "Depending on what you do next." His mouth twitched, as though he wanted to argue but didn't know how. The man who had planned to humiliate me at our engagement party now stood defenseless, exposed by his own actions. He left not long after that, walking out of the house with his head down, avoiding the eyes of guests who now whispered about him, not me. But that wasn't the end. The story spread fast. Jenna had recorded my calm delivery and posted it on social media with the caption, "She handled betrayal like a boss." Within hours, it started gaining traction. Not because I was dramatic, but because I wasn't. The world had seen messy breakups, thrown drinks, screaming matches. They hadn't seen this grace, control, strength in the face of humiliation. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. People flooded the comments with support, tagging friends, writing about their own experiences, saying things like, "This woman is my new hero, and now this is how you exit with dignity." Some people recognized Nathan and Maya from work, others began questioning him publicly. His professional life began to unravel in parallel with his personal one. I didn't intend to destroy him. I just wanted to protect myself. But sometimes, when the truth is powerful enough, it does the work for you. HR from his company did reach out, surprisingly. I never even had to send them the letter. They'd seen the video and wanted to understand the situation better. I told them the truth, calmly, respectfully, with documentation. I didn't demand anything. I simply answered their questions. Nathan was placed under investigation for misconduct shortly after. And Maya? She ghosted social media completely. I never heard from her again. Meanwhile, my inbox filled with messages, women reaching out to thank me for standing up for myself, people offering collaboration opportunities, even journalists wanting interviews. I declined most of them. This wasn't about going viral. It was about reclaiming my power. Still, I couldn't deny the poetic justice of it all. This man tried to shame me in front of our family and friends. He wanted to leave me broken and embarrassed. Instead, he left exposed, alone, and branded by his own deceit. I learned something important through all of it. Betrayal doesn't always need revenge. Sometimes, the truth, delivered with unwavering composure, is enough to burn every lie to ash. And while he tried to make our engagement party the end of my story, it became something entirely different. It became my beginning. In the weeks that followed, I started to feel the weight lift. After years of second-guessing myself, accommodating Nathan's shifting moods, brushing off the quiet red flags, I finally had space to breathe. There were no more late-night apologies for things I didn't do. No more adjusting my schedule to fit his. No more wondering if the problem was me. It never was. And now, the silence he left behind was the most peaceful sound I'd known in years. But the aftermath wasn't just emotional. It was public. The video Jenna posted took on a life of its own. It spread far beyond our social circles. People shared it on relationship forums, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Influencers stitched reactions to it, praising how I handled the confrontation. "This is how you exit a toxic situation," one woman said. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She let the truth speak for itself. I hadn't intended to become a symbol for graceful strength, but I'll admit, it felt empowering to be seen, not as a victim, but as someone who refused to be quietly discarded. Old friends reached out. Some apologized for not noticing how unhappy I'd been. Others admitted they'd always sensed something off about Nathan but didn't feel it was their place to say anything. Funny how that works, we're all so careful not to interfere, even when we see people drowning. But the most unexpected message came from a woman named Claire. She didn't know me, but she'd once been in a relationship with Nathan, years before we met. She found me through social media and sent a long, heartfelt message. "He hasn't changed," she wrote. "He did the same thing to me. He made me feel like I was crazy for noticing things. He cheated, lied, gaslit, all while smiling in front of my family. I'm so sorry you went through it too. But I'm glad you got out." Reading her words was like flipping to the final chapter of a mystery novel. Everything I'd questioned, every little moment of unease, suddenly made sense. Nathan hadn't just betrayed me. He had a pattern. A history. And somehow, I felt a strange sense of relief. It reminded me that his actions weren't about me. They were about him, his cowardice, his ego, his inability to face real intimacy without control. A few reporters did try to contact me for interviews, but I turned them down. I wasn't interested in becoming a spectacle. I had already said what I needed to say, once, clearly, and with purpose. I didn't need to explain it to the world 100 times. I just wanted to move forward. But there was one thing I did say yes to, a guest invitation on a podcast that focused on women reclaiming their narratives. It wasn't about gossip or drama. It was about healing, storytelling, and truth. And that felt right. The episode aired quietly, no viral moments, no clickbait. Just an honest conversation about what it means to trust yourself, to prepare for the possibility that people you love might not love you back the way you deserve, and what it takes to walk away with dignity intact. What I didn't expect was how many people would connect with that. My inbox flooded with messages from listeners who had gone through similar betrayals, people who never got closure, people who wished they had spoken up, and others who found the courage because I did. Somehow, my personal heartbreak had become a shared experience. And that meant something. As for Nathan, his company placed him on temporary leave while they conducted their internal investigation. I didn't push for any specific outcome. I just told them what happened. That was enough. From what I heard later, he ended up resigning quietly, no big drama, just a whimper of an exit compared to the chaos he tried to create at our engagement party. He never reached out again. Not once. Not even an apology. And honestly, that silence told me everything I needed to know. Sometimes, people don't apologize, not because they're not sorry, but because doing so would require them to face a truth they've spent their whole lives avoiding, that they are the villain in someone else's story. But I wasn't looking for his remorse anymore. I was too busy rebuilding my life. I moved out of the apartment we shared, choosing a small but bright space of my own. I painted the walls the way I wanted. Bought the dishes I liked. Woke up every day without the weight of someone else's judgment sitting silently in the room. It was like reintroducing myself to me. I picked up hobbies I'd dropped. Returned to journaling. Took long walks at sunset without needing to text anyone where I was. It wasn't just freedom. It was rebirth. I even ran into a few guests from the party in the weeks that followed. One woman, a distant cousin of Nathan's, came up to me at a bookstore. "I just want to say," she said, "you did what most of us only dream of doing. You stood up for yourself in a way that will stick with people forever." I thanked her, smiled, and walked away, heartful. And maybe that's what healing really looks like, not grand victories or dramatic endings, but 1,000 quiet moments where you finally feel at peace. Looking back, I don't regret a single moment of what happened that night, not the confrontation, not the public exposure, not even the heartbreak. Because as painful as it was, it became the catalyst for my liberation. I wasn't just walking away from a broken engagement. I was stepping out of a relationship that had quietly been eroding my spirit for years. People say time heals all wounds, but I think truth does that job much faster. The truth gave me clarity. It gave me strength. And most importantly, it gave me the power to reclaim my narrative before someone else wrote it for me. If Nathan had broken up with me in private, if he'd manipulated the story afterward, I might have been left confused, doubting myself, questioning everything I did. But because I stood up for myself, calmly, clearly, and without apology, I walked away with my head held high. And the world saw the truth for what it was. Since then, I've made a vow to myself, I will never silence my instincts again. The woman I am today is not the woman who once cried quietly in the bathroom because her fiancé forgot their date night. She's not the woman who tried to be smaller to avoid conflict. She's not the woman who accepted bare minimum love wrapped in grand gestures. She's someone who knows her worth, deeply, fully, and unapologetically. And to anyone going through something similar, I hope you remember that dignity doesn't come from staying silent. It comes from honoring your truth, even when your voice shakes. Even when it means walking away from someone you once loved. Because peace, in the end, is worth so much more than pretending. And freedom? That's the best engagement gift I ever gave myself.